Hello students, in today's video we are going to study anatomy or the structure of human heart. So look at this structure. Our heart is a muscular organ. The wall of the heart is made up of cardiac muscles, and the function of heart is to pump blood. Now the blood that is pumped by the heart is circulated throughout the body by the blood vessels. Now this is the largest blood vessel of the body, namely the aorta. Now as you can see here in the figure, the heart is a roughly cone-shaped hollow muscular organ and its base is towards the upper side and its apex is towards the lower side. Now the human heart has 4 chambers, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now as it is hollow, all these chambers, they are filled with the blood. Now here blood in the red represents the oxygenated blood and the blood in blue represents the deoxygenated blood. Now the size of heart is the size of a clenched or a closed fist. Now let's understand first the position of heart, where exactly the heart is situated in our body. Now the heart is situated in the thoracic or in the chest cavity between the 2 lungs. And as you can see here, the heart lies obliquely, pointing a little more towards the left than the right. As you can see here, heart is enveloped by a very thick wall. Now this wall of heart is composed of 3 layers of tissues. Now this innermost lining of endocardium, then middle one is the myocardium, and this outermost is the pericardium. Now as you can see here, this endocardium, it is a thin smooth membrane that forms the lining of the upper atrium, lower ventricles, and it also forms the lining of the heart valves. So endocardium directly covers the heart. Now endocardium is made up of flattened epithelial cells. Now this shown in green color is the myocardium. Now it is made up of specialized cardiac muscles that are found only in the wall of heart. Now as you can see here, this myocardium, it is thickest at the apex and it thins towards the base. Now this myocardium, that is the cardiac muscles, are responsible for the pumping action of the heart. Now as you can see, this pericardium, it is the outermost tissue layer of the wall of heart, and it has 2 layers. Visceral pericardium and parietal pericardium. Now inner lining of the pericardium is found firmly attached to the myocardium, and this is called as a visceral pericardium. The outer layer is the parietal pericardium. Now as you can see here, in between the visceral and the parietal pericardium is a pericardial cavity that remains filled with around 20 ml of lubricating pericardial fluid. Now this pericardial fluid, it keeps the space lubricated, and it prevents the damage and wear and tear as the heart contracts, and when the 2 layers, that is the visceral and the parietal layer, they glide over each other, they move over each other. So the function of this pericardial fluid is to provide lubrication. Now this parietal pericardium is in turn surrounded by the fibrous pericardium. Now this is highly protective. It protects the entire structure of the heart. So this is the structure of the wall of heart that is composed of 3 layers of tissues. Innermost endocardium, then middle one myocardium made up of cardiac muscles, and the outermost pericardium. And in between the visceral and parietal pericardium, there is a pericardial cavity filled with the pericardial fluid, and the outermost highly protective tissue layer is the fibrous pericardium. Now let's talk about the internal structure of the heart. The right and the left side of the heart are separated by a wall of muscle called as the septum. Now each side is further divided by the atrioventricular valve into upper atrium and the lower ventricle. So the heart has 4 chambers, upper 2 atria and the lower 2 ventricles. Now very important, the 2 atria are the chambers of the heart that receive blood, and the blood received by the atria passes into the ventricle below. Now as you know that the heart is a muscular pump. So when the ventricles contract, this blood in the ventricles is pumped out of the heart. Now this blood pumped out of the left ventricle is circulated throughout the body by this blood vessel known as the aorta. Now as you can see here, these are one and 2. These are two atrioventricular valves between the atria and the ventricle. Now through this valve, the blood passes from the atria into the ventricle. Now the left atrioventricular valve is known as the mitral valve. It is a bicuspid valve as it is made up of two flaps or the two coverings. Now the right atrioventricular valve is a tricuspid valve. It is made up of three flaps or the three coverings. Now these valves ensure one-way unidirectional flow of blood always from the atria to the ventricle. Now these cords are known as the cordia tendineae, and these cords prevent the opening of the valve into the atria. So the valve always open towards the ventricle. Thus these valves always open in one direction. These are unidirectional. They always open in the ventricle and they prevent the backflow of blood into the atria. After atrioventricular valve, let's talk about the great blood vessels. Now, as you can see here, this superior vena cava and this inferior vena cava, these are the two largest veins of the body. Now, superior vena cava brings deoxygenated blood from upper part of the body to the right atrium, while inferior vena cava brings deoxygenated blood from the lower part of the body to the right atrium. Now, deoxygenated blood with more carbon dioxide is represented by the blue color. So, the right atrium receives deoxygenated blood of the body by superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. Now, this deoxygenated blood goes into the right ventricle through this right atrioventricular tricuspid valve. Now, when the right ventricle contracts, this deoxygenated blood is pumped into the pulmonary trunk, and the left and the right pulmonary arteries of the pulmonary trunk supply this deoxygenated blood to the left and to the right lung respectively for oxygenation. So this deoxygenated blood gets oxygenated in the lungs. Now this deoxygenated blood is oxygenated in the lungs, and for two right and two left pulmonary veins bring oxygenated blood from the lungs to the left atria. Now, oxygenated blood here is represented by the red color. So, the left atria receives oxygenated blood which moves to the left ventricle through the mitral valve. Now, when the left ventricle contracts, this oxygenated blood is pumped into the aorta. Now, this aorta, it is the largest artery of the body, and branches of aorta like the brachiocephalic artery, then the left common carotid artery, left subclavian artery, and other arteries circulate this oxygenated blood throughout the body. So, one of the main functions of the heart is to pump blood into the aorta from where it is circulated throughout the body. So this is in brief on the anatomy and structure of heart. If you find the video useful, kindly like, subscribe and share this video. Thanks for watching this video.